Loading. Okay, this is episode 1 of season 3. Season 3 opener is here. So I'm going to give myself a little shout out for that. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this episode. Thanks for joining us again.
Hi, thank you so much for joining the Falling for Learning podcast. We have this podcast to help parents and caregivers with having the resources, strategies, and tools needed to make sure that their children are on track for learning and to stay on track for success.
Episode number 105 for the Falling for Learning podcast. I'm so excited today because it is season 3, and let me just be honest. I've been solo podcasting. I saw someone had a thing that was like solopreneur. Anyway, someone who does everything for the podcast, and that is definitely me. Okay, it is season 3, episode 1. I am on my vacation right now, and literally when this comes out, I'll be getting, really in vacation mode, really, like tripping mode. And so this episode is really just going to be a reflection of some of the things that have been going down in the background and all of that. So yeah. So, something I would learn about my journey, again, I've said this before, is, one of the things, like I've been a lifelong sufferer of perfectionism. And instead of perfectionism, I really embraced consistency when I have been on my podcast. And that is why we're on episode 105. Episode 106. Actually, I'm not sure which episode it is, but it will be in the show notes. Because I have a couple of episodes in the vault, right? Just ready and loaded. Um, but as a solo podcaster, I really actually have been just flying by the seat of my pants, really just making sure the podcast was recorded that day and edited that day and all of that, sometimes in the same day. There have been a couple of late episodes or whatever, but I made the commitment to do it every Saturday, 5 p.m. And so it's been basically that, except, some days it's every once in a while it's late. I have been adding someone to my podcast, different people and different guests, and then have like a regular, kind of like a co-host and Lauren Moseley. And so I'm just excited, that we're, turning the page on a new season and moving forward with that. With that being said, I really want to thank you all for watching and being on my show and all of the things that you've done to support this podcast, either just by watching silently. And please send in emails and questions and all of that about any challenges that you may be having, anything that you want us to discuss. If you want to be a guest on the podcast and you have something to offer parents and educators alike, please jump on, the email. Uh, td@writertie.com, right? And we will be glad to reach out to you. I'm getting my calendar together for season 3. I really came, just coming off of a very, very busy season and am a lot more tired than I really thought that I was, right? Really had um, lots of plans. Like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do 3 of these a day, 5 of these a day, an hour of this, hour of that. And my body was like, whoa, slow down. You're not going to do all those things, but maybe you could do an hour of this instead of 5 hours of this, or a half an hour of this, or 15 minutes of this. So my body has really been, dictating that I rest. And I think it's really good. I really need, something I think a lot of us do, and some of us, to our detriment, have ignored our body, have not looked at what is different, what's changing, what our body's saying. And we'll, get caffeine and all the things and push ourselves through. And then, we'll have some major health issues. So, this episode is an episode of reflection. And wherever you are in your learning journey, whatever it is that you have focused on learning and doing, whatever you want your child to focus on learning and doing, give them some time to reflect, right? Tell them, remind them of where they started. I don't know why when I started my podcast, I had like the camera to like the side. I don't know why. I don't know. Anyway, I use my computer. I think I was using my phone at some point, and the phone is good at some point, but I've been using Ecamm Live and it's pretty good. I'm not using it to its full ability, but I'm using it in a way that works for me. Um, and every season, I want to level up the podcast, and one way that I'm doing that again is adding a third person guest, and then also having like a regular person that I could talk to, an educator who is very seasoned, award-winning educator, that I think is going to help, enrich our discussions and also bring so many fresh ideas and perspectives to the things that we discuss and the strategies and resources that we offer. So stay tuned and continue to share the podcast and continue to focus on, what you can do to give your child the competitive advantage. We are so glad that you have joined us, and we're going to talk about what more is in store for season 3 after these messages.
The Rewrite Method and the Rewrite Method Workbook are your go to resource for helping kids to learn to fall in love with writing. It has the tips, tools, resources, strategies, and skill building activities to help kids fall out of writing hate and into loving to write. Get your book set today.
Okay, season 3, more that what's coming up, of course, um, making sure that we have more resources to offer you, links to things that you could buy that are directly related to implementation of whatever resources and strategies that we are discussing with you. I am having a another edition of the Rewrite Method and the Rewrite Method Workbook. We have a student-facing one that's coming out very soon. I also have a fiction book that is coming out. It's semi-autobiographical, right? That's coming out on very soon. And again, these are part of the things that I told myself I was going to do 5 hours of this, 8 hours of this when I'm on my vacation time, and my body's saying, a little bit at a time. And I'm listening and I'm getting that rest and I'm resetting. But I am moving forward every day, doing a little bit more towards my goal, even though it's not the full speed ahead that I wanted it to be. But obviously, if I don't take care of myself, if my health isn't what it needs to be, then ain't nothing getting done, right? If I, we could break ourselves, which a lot of us, we know of loved ones who broke themselves. They worked, and didn't reset and didn't rest. And if that's one thing that you can take away from the podcast today, is to listen to your body and listen to yourself, because we are not machines. And even though we have these great grand plans about all the things we need to do and how fast it needs to be done, and sometimes put ourselves down for slow progress, right? But progress is progress. We know that there are times when we are standing still, when we're not doing anything towards our goals. where our goals are things that we want to do, that we shoulda, coulda, woulda did, but we're not doing anything. And so that is something that we need to celebrate amongst ourselves is when we are making progress, even if it's incremental progress, we are moving forward. It is better than standing in one place, looking at it collect dust and not touching it for a year or 5 months or 8 years or whatever it is. So, little bit by little bit is very important. When we really neglect, when we really neglect our progress, when we really belittle our progress, even if it's small, then we're discouraging ourselves. And then we cheat ourselves out of the journey. And instead we'll say, well, what's the point? I can't move 5 hours at a time, 8 hours at a time, full speed ahead. So I'm going to stop what I'm doing. And instead we have convinced ourselves it's better to stand still than move full speed ahead. And that is a lie that we tell ourselves. It's not true. Standing still and not making progress and not moving forward, even if it's one sentence at a time, one period at a time, one, hour at a time, 15 minutes at a time, that is not something that we need to laugh at or we need to belittle, but it's something that we have to celebrate. That is something that one of the mentors that I'm working with has reminded me of, and I'm reminding myself of that. I was looking at I've also gone to the podcast summit to help me to enrich my learning as a professional podcaster. And one of the coaches, the podcast coaches, CJ, was saying, we need to, fall in love with that little thing, that small thing. Um, 10 people watch my podcast, 20 people watch my podcast, and enjoy that journey and learn and grow and celebrate wherever we are right now and keep moving forward instead of saying, "Oh, only 20 people watched it, so I'm going to stop." There's no, that's nothing, right? Some people are getting 20 million views, 2 million views, 200,000 views, and I got 20. And it's like, nope, that's good enough for now. And this is where you are now. And then a year from now, if you keep moving, you could have 200 people per episode watching. And you're finding your voice, you're finding your niche, you are perfecting your craft, and enjoying that time when you're small and celebrating that time when you're small will pay dividends in the future. But again, to get into the habit of stinking thinking, where we're telling ourselves that these small, incremental areas of progress is not good enough, is not worthy, is not um, something we should brag about, even to ourselves, right? Maybe, you know, um, it is such is cheating ourselves, right? We don't want to cheat ourselves. And again, we got to listen to our body. Sometimes we do have to do a little bit less. And and I'm not saying don't be consistent, but I'm saying we could be consistent, but it's not perfect. And so today, I'm again feeling very tired, but really making sure that I'm being consistent with putting out my podcast. Um, didn't slick down my edges, okay? It's a little fuzzy today. It is what it is, right? Did I have the energy to get the podcast to go, put everything together, set up, Yes. The energy to slick down the edges. I don't even believe in baby hairs at this age. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I don't believe in baby hairs at this age. Sometimes someone does my hair and they'll do baby hairs, and I'm like, but I'm not a baby anymore. And of course, if you look on my Instagram, you will find my daughter found one of my high school pictures where I was very much, into the baby hairs. But, that was a bygone era for me, and I'm not bringing those back. But, I know people brought them back, and that's their business. But it's not what I want to do at this point. Okay. I just don't. I mean, in the comments, let me know. Are you, in your 40s bringing the baby hairs back? If you are, I love that for you. It's not for me though. It's not for me. Okay, it's just not. Okay. But there's ways I could have slicked it down. I didn't. So just be aware, I did not slick it down. I mean, not that I had to tell you. If you're watching the video version of the podcast, then you see, no, they're not slicked down and they're not going to be slicked down. But moving on, to slick or not to slick, that is the question. And now I've moved on from that. So, oh, let me tell you some other things that happened. So, my daughter moved out of the home and, she's, 27. She's old. But me being a teen mom, and then I also, have this is generational teen mom that I'm dealing with, as you know, if you've been watching the show. Um, some teen moms and dads want their kids to get out at 18 and get the heck on, right? Um, and I just don't believe in that. And I also look at people who have more generational wealth, and a lot of times they will set their kids up to stay with them and help take care of them and help support them into their adulthood. And of course, in certain cultures, especially women are not moving out until they get married or something like that. She didn't get married, but she decided to move across the country because she was always wanting to do that. And she transferred one of her jobs. She worked several jobs and decided to do that and see what that is like. Therefore, I took her room, and so now I have an office. I have been in my dining room. Okay. I'm going to proudly say it. Been in my dining room, the corner of my dining room, really not wanting people to come over. But, family comes over. There's always things going on and events. So, family is there. But being, low key embarrassed. Like, this is a mess, right? I like my house to be clean and neat and organized. And it was only partially clean, neat, and organized, especially with that desk, everything set up in the dining room. So we have now relocated the Writer Tie LLC studios of Falling for Learning podcast into a room with a door that closes. So we are moving on up, as they say. Okay. We are in new locations. We have a dedicated studio space. And I don't really even have to announce that I am recording and give people dirty looks when they're walking around in the house because I have a closed door and a dedicated space. And I am so excited about that. I was looking at, joining different locations or like podcast studios and all of these things to find a location, but she just happened to move out, and now I have a new studio spot, a place where I sit and work quietly and write my book, and whew, it's a lot. I'm very excited about it. It's a dedicated space, super excited about it. There is still a bed in here because it is also a guest room, but most of the time, no one's using that bed. It's just my dedicated spot. This weekend's about to pop off, and there's lots of family that will be in and out. I just have to make sure I let them know don't put anything on my desk because last time somebody came, they put something on my desk, and I was very upset. But I dealt with it internally, but this time I'll be like, if you put something on my desk, I mean, you're gonna have a problem. Okay, that's dedicated space, boo. Okay. Anyway, I'll be very nice. I just will set those ground rules. You gotta have boundaries, okay? Gotta have boundaries. Anyway, that's where we are with the Falling for Learning podcast to make sure that you give yourself a competitive advantage and therefore your child a competitive advantage. Make sure that you are allowing yourself to rest, listening to your body, you're reflecting, right? You're looking about out where you came from and where you are now, and you are respecting the small, right? whatever you're doing, that incremental progress, that consistency, that every week you're putting out a podcast, every week you are reading with your kid, every day you're reading with your kid, you are checking in with your child to see how they're doing, you are nurturing that relationship every day, twice a week, whatever it is, making sure you have those check ins, putting systems in place, you're building your legacy. And I'm here to help you do it. Please reach out to me if you have any questions, concerns, whatever you have. Let me know. I'm here. We're here in season 3 of the Falling for Learning podcast. We not going nowhere. We're here. We're here. Okay. And this one was just me because it's number 1 episode, season 3. But so many fun things to happen this season coming up. You're gonna be so impressed and so excited and so enriched by the lessons that we discuss, the resources we provide, and the guest is gonna be up in here. Okay. I'm just letting you know ahead of time. Buckle up. Thanks again. More to come on season 3.
Thanks again for supporting the Falling for Learning podcast. New episodes go live every Saturday at 5 p.m. You can watch us on youtube.com at Falling for Learning or listen on all major podcast platforms such as Apple, Google, Audible, Spotify, and much more. For more resources, visit fallinginlovewithlearning.com. We really appreciate you. Have a wonderful week.
So I'm season number 3. Wasn't even like looking ahead to realize, like, guess what?